The elevator receipt puzzle story. In the downtown tower of Kestrel Bank, the executive floors were reached only by a private elevator that ran on a strict access system. Keycard, camera, and a weight sensor that logged every ride as a trip record. On Friday night, the building was nearly empty, but the bank's compliance director, Rina Caldwell, stayed late to finalize a regulatory response due before morning. She was known for routine precision, tight schedule, tighter documents, office locked even when she walked 10 steps to the printer. At 9:42 p.m., Rina left the 38th floor executive suite and stepped into the private elevator alone. At the lobby desk, security guard Omar watched her on the monitor as the doors shut. In the elevator feed, Rina faced forward, laptop bag in her left hand, a manila folder tucked under her right arm. At 9:43 p.m., the elevator stopped between floors and the lights briefly dimmed. The system registered a 2-minute service pause, something that occasionally happened when the tower switched power loads at night. Omar didn't react at first. Those pauses were annoying, but usually harmless, and Rina didn't either. On camera, she barely moved. A small exhale, a half-step adjustment, and one quick tap of the lobby button, more habit than panic, before she went still again. At 9:44 p.m., while the elevator was still paused, a late courier arrived at the lobby desk. Omar signed a delivery receipt without leaving his seat, glancing between the clipboard and the monitor as the elevator status continued to read service pause. At 9:45 p.m., the system cleared and the elevator resumed its descent. Almost simultaneously, the ground floor cafe called security. A customer had suddenly become dizzy and nauseated near the condiment station, then recovered after sitting down and drinking water. Omar logged it as a routine welfare call and didn't connect it to anything else. At 9:46 p.m., the elevator reached the lobby. Omar watched the doors open. Rina stepped out, walked briskly toward the exit, and raised her hand to flag a taxi at the curb. She opened the rear door, slid into the back seat, and gave the driver a quick address as if nothing was wrong. The taxi had barely pulled away when Rina's head tipped back against the seat. Her folder slid, her laptop bag thumped softly to the floor mat, and she stopped responding. The driver signaled, swung back to the curb, and opened the rear door, asking if she could hear him. A faint scent, like fresh wipes, like something recently cleaned, mixed with the car's heat and traffic air, barely noticeable until later, when people tried to remember what felt off. Paramedics arrived quickly and confirmed what no one expected. Rina was dead. The autopsy confirmed poisoning. That was the first impossibility. The second was worse. Nothing she consumed inside the bank tested positive for poison. Her water bottle was sealed. Her coffee mug in the executive kitchen was untouched. No one had entered the elevator with her. The elevator's camera showed only Rina the entire ride. The access logs recorded a single keycard swipe, hers, and the weight sensor trip record showed one rider for the trip. The elevator car was swept, wiped, and tested. No residue, no vial, no syringe, no needle marks, no scratches, no signs of struggle. By the time it was treated as a possible crime scene, it had already been handled and cleaned in the ordinary way service complaints usually were. The staff list for the night was short. Besides Rina, only 4 people had meaningful proximity to the executive floors or the elevator system. Lydia Tran, the executive assistant, stayed late printing documents and doing small fixes people stopped noticing. Miles Corbin, the maintenance supervisor, was on site finishing a routine inspection of the elevator's emergency phone and lighting. He wore latex gloves as a habit because he hated leaving fingerprints on polished metal, and everyone waved him through because maintenance is always here. Eleni Park, HR, stopped by briefly to drop a sealed envelope in Rina's tray and mentioned Rina looked wired and should go home. Omar remained at his desk the entire time. A second detail came from the elevator itself. Miles said he had inspected the emergency phone and replaced a small LED behind the interior button panel earlier that night. He explained, in the bored tone of someone who has said it 100 times, that he had to pop the panel briefly and wipe the rail and buttons before and after he closed it because those surfaces show everything, and executives complained if they saw streaks. He produced his work ticket, timestamped 9:18 p.m., and the building system confirmed a maintenance mode entry. After Omar filed the elevator pause as a routine complaint, Miles did what he always did, ran a quick diagnostic, reset the panel, and wiped away the fingerprints he'd left while working. It wasn't presented as cleanup so much as habit. In executive buildings, smudges drew more comments than malfunctions. Much later, the only clean timestamp didn't come from the elevator at all. It came from a harmless morale post the bank's internal social team uploaded after midnight, a late-night grind photo people would normally scroll past. The picture itself had been taken earlier, around 9:12 p.m., when Lydia teased Rina in the executive hallway about living at the office. In the background, barely noticeable unless you zoomed, were the private elevator doors and the call button panel, and just at the edge of the frame, Miles passing through with his usual belt kit, a small bottle of stainless steel polish clipped to the side like it belonged there. Now the question remains, how was Rina poisoned in a camera-verified solo elevator ride, and who was responsible?